Hello, gumshoes. I'm going to give this a minute till I get a confirmation that you all can hear me. Hi, Olivia. Hi, everybody. I just saw we have 2 mama bears. Yes. Let's just throw a chicken in the middle and let them go at it. Just kidding. Yes, you can hear me. Okay, great. Well, welcome to another edition of A Murderous Heart. This is going to be just an open Q&A like we've had before. We weren't really sure as moderators what the appetite would be for the open Q&As, but I've been pleasantly surprised to see just a constant intake of questions and really, really good questions. So I'm having allergies, so I'm not pulling a Melanie Gibb. So anyway, a couple of housekeeping announcements. If one of the moderators wants to drop in a link to the petition for Phoenix Police to investigate Joe's death, I would be very grateful for that. I forgot to grab that before I came in. And then also, just a heads up, I have set Cool Cats to hidden. It's just become such a distraction on A Murderous Heart. And also, we have spent considerable time going through applications. And for every 10 sock puppets, there's maybe one real account. So we just keep getting bombarded with so many sock puppet accounts, and they're painfully obvious, most of them. Some of you have accepted too many friend requests from sock puppets, which makes you look like a sock puppet, especially if your account is particularly locked down. So it is extremely rare for someone to be booted from the group because they said something wrong, or, it's not even so much saying something wrong. There are some people, they're just not a good fit for the group, but that is very, very rare. Most of the time it's your account is just really locked down and you look like a sock puppet. But I've really refocused my efforts here on A Murderous Heart. And so the group isn't really active at the moment. And if Facebook ever cracks down on multiple accounts, we will open it back up. And I have a really good friend who had one alt account because a family member had blocked them, and just maintained this alt account. It was just so that they could see posts from this one family member, and they received notification. I think it was late last year, maybe early this year, that Facebook became aware of this alt account. They didn't do anything with this alt account, they told me, but and really, really nice person. But yeah, Facebook permanently banned them. There was no appeal. Even when they tried to open up a new account, Facebook banned that. So I do know that Facebook can identify when there are multiple accounts. And Facebook added the ability for group admins to be able to block any future profiles that are created from most likely that IP address. But so they can identify it. They just haven't cracked down on it yet. But it's just a matter of time before there's a high profile case of trolling. And if past is prologue, then Facebook will kind of carte blanche go through and ban accounts. But at this point, it helps their numbers, so they're not really incentivized to to actually take this seriously. I don't know what happened with my friend that may caught them on the radar. But anyway, if Facebook ever gets serious about banning people who have multiple accounts, we absolutely will open it back up. But okay, I think that's it. Oh no, one other announcement. I mentioned this in a couple of different lives. Now, this is going to be my last live for a few weeks. So there are just some things I need to take care of. I'm doing fine. I'm not taking a social media break. I'm good. Excuse me. I just need to take care of some stuff. So I just need to kind of redouble my efforts elsewhere. It'll probably be about 3 weeks. Yeah, and then we'll be back at it. So, okay, having said that, let's jump into questions. One thing that helps your question stand out is if you just write question in all caps. You don't have to write out the entire question in all caps, but yeah, just put question in all caps and keep your questions short. Like, you don't need to write an infomercial. If it's a really long post, then I'm not going to be able to preview it. So don't like try to fit, 6 questions into one. Just put your question out there and I will try to get to as many as I can. Okay. Abby Normal. That's such a great username. Okay. All right. Aw. Green and orange heart. If you know, you know. Olivia asked, any updates, still separate trials? At this point, they need to nail this down because Chad's trial is scheduled for January, but Lori chose not to waive her right to a speedy trial, which is well within her constitutional rights. And there was a weird filing, and I thought, oh, brother. Has Mark Means been reconstituted? It just sounded like, oh, she's kind of fragile. She could, like go back into the spa again. So we need to be really careful. I was underwhelmed. But because lots of mentally ill people stand trial. Lots and lots of them. Lots of them are convicted. Lots of them are on death row. And I am very passionate about upholding, U.S. citizens' constitutional rights. But I just think at this point, the inmates have taken over the asylum. I mean, it just seems like she's just in full princess mode. And I really take issue with the fact that she had all of her faculties and, wasn't so fragile when she was maintaining a very protracted campaign of terror. And so, I get it. I'm sure a lot of the weight of the consequences of her actions, is crashing down on her. But, yeah, it just reminds me of that meme. Well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions. Okay. Anyway, we'll see where that goes. Yes, Chris, I just answered that question. Hello, Scott. Prince Charming's mom. Oh my gosh, some of you have really funny usernames. Okay. Angel asked, do you really think Lori is actually mentally ill or is it a personality disorder? Probably combination of both. I've said before, I think she's a socio or psychopath. I seriously doubt that she has experienced any remorse. I think, Even just seeing her come in and just look for the camera, glare at the camera. I mean, yeah. But like I said, even if she is mentally ill or, has a personality disorder, that doesn't mean that she's not fit to stand trial. Um, okay. Holly asked, any thoughts on malachite poisoning or some kind of poisoning with Tammy? So that's a great question. I am pretty sure I'm going to do a live just about malachite. But to that point, let me see if I can find where did I read this? I'm going to see if I can find this screenshot I just created. One of the things that stood out to me, oh, yeah, I dropped this in Cool Cats. One of the things that stood out to me is that the receipt for there. Okay, let me see. So there was on May 5th, 2019. So this was before Charles died or Tammy died. So both of their spouses were alive and well. And Lori saved a screenshot of a malachite stone. And this was just the stone. This wasn't the ring. And that didn't really hit me before, even though it was in my timeline. It didn't really hit me that it was just the stone. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. This was, oh, is this the right one? No, this isn't the right screenshot. Where was it? Where was it? Okay, yes. Okay, I'll zoom in for those of you on mobile. So on May 5th, they found on Lori's iCloud an image of a malachite stone. And it was similar to the stone in Chad and Lori's wedding ring. And it potentially showed plans to marry as early as May 2019. This would be the same stone as the wedding rings that Chad and Lori later purchased for their marriage. Now, I think that this is significant for a number of reasons. One, yes, this is before Tammy or Charles were killed. This was before the only one who had died at this point was my brother, and that was a little more than a year before. But Lori was like back and forth between Idaho and Arizona, Hawaii, and who knows where else. So there was a lot of chaos. I don't think Lori had moved in with Charles yet, but it was around this time. We don't actually have an exact date that Lori moved in with Charles. But having said that, the fact that she took a screenshot of the stone itself speaks to me that she was specifically wanting malachite. And then we know that she ordered 2 wedding rings. This was another thing that I didn't capture before I think in the latest FOIA doc release. So I think it was maybe the one from Gilbert. There was a screenshot of the receipt, and it was for two rings. One was, I think, a size 4.5, and one was a size 11. So we had just known before that it was for one ring. And all we know from the Amazon purchase, the only receipt that Kay passed on was for one ring, but we do know that they were matching malachite rings. So she most likely bought both of the rings at the same time. We don't know that for sure. But so in May, she grabs a screenshot of just a stone. And I guess she was just going to build the ring around it. But then she took screenshots of these malachite rings from Etsy, which I think was right after. Yes, right after Charles was killed, but before Tammy was killed, there was a screenshot from a purchase of two wedding bands from Etsy on August 14th. So this would have been just a little more than a month after Charles was killed. And that order was canceled because the seller had school obligations and couldn't get around to it. And then they purchased the rings from Amazon in, I think it was October 25th or something like that. Oh no, October 2nd. Yeah. So Lori ordered the ring. At least we know she ordered hers on the day that Brandon was shot at. So anyway, so I do think I've always thought that malachite is significant for her. So I definitely, I'm just committing to it. I am going to do a live about malachite and dive in a little bit deeper. Claire asks, can you imagine Lori has had a change of heart and is preparing to challenge Chad to keep solidarity with her or else? I kind of doubt that Lori has had a change of heart about anything. I've shared this before that I suspect. Now, we're going to move into the conjecture lane before, but I suspect that they have both murdered before. And we know that Lori has no internal editor because I mean, but there are multiple instances where she tells on herself throughout this whole thing, like even saying the day that Charles was shot that she was afraid he was going to ambush her. And, so she tells on herself again and again. But yeah, so I suspect that there's a good chance they both murdered before. And knowing how Lori has no internal editor, and I shared kind of an extreme example of that where she talked about being in a hot tub naked with a couple, as an adult, with a couple other adult family members. And this was on her 2007 vacation. So so I think, and and we know that in October 2018, the day that Chad met Lori, so this was October 26th, there's a note in one of the FOIA docs that he had searched for many obituaries in Arizona. I do not give Arizona the benefit of the doubt. I seriously doubt that he searched for many obituaries. He had just met her. How many obituaries was he going to search for? Possibly, but big question marks. However, I do wonder if he searched for my brother's obituary and if Gilbert is possibly, I think this was from the Gilbert police report, if they're possibly doing Phoenix a solid by just kind of burying the fact that, well, it's not a fact, but if Chad had searched for Joe's obituary. Now, keep in mind, we know from the FOIA docs that this was the first time Chad and Lori met face to face. I do suspect that they had communication before this point, but it does seem from Chad's puerile love story that this actually could have very well been the first time they actually met face to face. So, all that to say, if they, got into a bragging match and shared their previous murders or whatever role they possibly played in murders, then they're facing mutually assured destruction, meaning if one goes after the other or tries to flip on the other one can flip on, and then I think they're both um, very likely facing the death penalty. Now, they may or may not actually get the death penalty, but if they both start talking, so there's a ton of conjecture in there, but that's that's just a question I have. So I think that if they did share these details with each other, I seriously doubt either will turn on the other. Okay. Angel asked if Malachite has some religious meaning. Is it in the Bible or something? I don't think it's in the Bible. I've never checked, but it is in Ian's notes. So let me see if I can find that. Put my eyes on. Let me just search here because he talked about uh, Malachite having healing properties. Yes, I found it. So let me share my screen. Yep. Okay, so this was from his outline. He had some notes and then he had an outline. And in this part of the outline, it talked about spiritual healing. And underneath, it says healing Malachite solution/bomb. Malachite is said to have healing properties administered by calling on it in a blessing. We also know that there was something about like a fruit basket that Alex was supposed to be preparing for Zulema. That was a basket. Anyway, let me put it back to me. Let me see if I have or if I can quickly find that reference because it's a very strange reference for sure. Oh, okay. I think I might have found it. No. Hmm. Does anyone remember what she called that? Maybe it wasn't called a basket. Because I'm not seeing anything for a gift or basket. But I know that there was something weird about a basket and about it being a blessing. Let me search one other thing. Oh, no. Just nope. All I'm finding is the blessing. Uh, yeah. There should be like basket should bring it up, um, but it's not. Let me see one more thing. Nope. Okay. I'm not finding it. Um, yeah, and I'm only finding out about the finding references to the patriarchal blessing. Anyway, um, yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, there was some reference to to this basket that he was supposed to create. I think oh, maybe that was in Alex's. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna search for one other thing, and if not, I'll give up on it. Um, yeah, I can't find it. Yeah, but I think it was in the Alex Cox investigation. Anyway, so there's kind of a potential connection there. We don't know, but anyway, it had some significance in this group for sure, and I do suspect that at least some of these victims could have been poisoned with malachite. Hi, Nettie. Jenny asked, which one do you think was the more dominant in the relationship based on your personal knowledge about Lori and her personality? No doubt in my mind, Lori was the more dominant. Just watching the videos of Chad, he just comes across as like nervous and unsure of himself. And like even his beliefs were like they seemed like they were poorly codified. Like Ian made a point in one part in his notes that there were like different ways that an evil spirit could get in someone, and one was like via a slug or something else. And it just seemed like he was just throwing a bunch of spaghetti at the wall. And even listening to his uh, weird, I don't know, his attempt to honor just a second. This is a reminder. Take Okay. Um, yeah. Alexa reminds me of stuff. And that reminder was actually for my daughter who is recovering from surgery. So I'm just going to send her a quick text. Okay. So, yeah. So there's there's a little question in my mind that Lori was the dominant personality. I don't think that there was an actual ringleader. I think that Lori and Chad fed off of each other. But even when people asked like Melanie Gibb about things Chad said and stuff, she was like, oh, he was just kind of in the background and Lori did most of the talking. And so, yeah, Lori's a much stronger personality of the two of them. And I think Chad was kind of leading from behind, and she was like his hype man, So it was weird. Somewhat, yeah, Angel made the point Malachite is her trophy. I absolutely agree. I think that's why she wanted the Malachite rings. I think they're a trophy. When you see that she took a screenshot of a Malachite stone, then tried to buy Malachite rings and then bought Malachite rings. Yeah. A piece of hair in my eye. Okay. Chris asked, how much did Tammy know? How much did she buy into Chad's beliefs? Did she know he was telling people she would die? We don't know how much Tammy knew about this group's beliefs. I know that, years before, Tammy and Chad wrote like children's books together, and she did, I think it was, she was responsible for the books for the publishing company, and Chad complained about that he wanted to get out of the business and she wanted to stay in the business. Uh, and I don't know how reliable J-Ro is because she's extremely unstable. But she had talked about, I think it was on the Nancy Grace podcast. She talked about how she used to meet with Chad and Tammy together. And she said that Chad was really controlling and he didn't let her talk to Tammy one-on-one. But she would meet with them, I think it was like a couple times a year pro bono. Her claim. Who knows? So it does seem that Tammy had like some kind of inclination toward like maybe the avow beliefs. We just don't know. And these people who are telling their stories they're not the most stable, so it's really hard to know you know how much Tammy bought into any of this. Excuse me. I think once the beliefs turned to like October 2018, it's very clear Tammy had nothing. She appeared to know very little to nothing about anything going on because Lori was going to Rexburg as early as, I think, January 2019. There was someone who had come into one of the groups at one point and said that there was an ad in the same, using the same service Lori used for the nanny. Was that care.com? I forget what that service was, but it was, yeah, care.com. It was that same service. And there was, I think it was, I think she had said it was a woman named Lori looking for a nanny um, for an autistic child. And I think it was a young boy. And it was like ongoing. So I wonder if Lori was planning at some point on, because I think that might have been February 2019. I'm not sure. It was January or February. And then Lori was back and forth between Rexburg and Arizona really early on in 2019. So, yeah. So, and then she and Chad were in Salt Lake City at the same time, and Chad had canceled a speaking engagement in Salt Lake City or that area, citing a family emergency. And then I found out, like, oh, yeah, well, Lori was in that same area. Yeah, so this was uh, May 31st. Yeah, Chad had canceled a speaking gig with Preparing a People due to a family emergency. Let me see if I can open that up. And okay, so that was March 31st. May 31st, sorry. On May 28th, Lori travels from Phoenix to Salt Lake City on Delta. So she just happened to fly into Salt Lake City a few days before. And then Chad's like, oh, I have a family emergency and I won't be able to speak at this engagement. So, yeah. So I don't think we know at that point for sure that Chad was in Salt Lake City, but I think we know. Let me see what this says here. On the 28th, let me put my glasses on. I'll just share my screen. Okay. So it says on June 14th, 2021, I contacted Agent Mike Douglas with the FBI to get information regarding travel arrangements that Lori made between Phoenix and Salt Lake City on May 28th, 2019. Agent Douglas was able to forward me 4 documents. One document consisted of BBVA bank records that showed Lori purchased the ticket in the amount of $347.30. Oh, it is notable that I think the BBVA bank was introduced when Lori took all of the money out of their business account. So I think that's when she opened up the BBVA. Maybe not. That might have been something else. But I think when Lori transferred Tylee's Social Security from her account to Lori's, that was her BBVA. Anyway, the other document was a Delta Airlines log that also showed the purchase. The email associated with this purchase was redacted. And yeah. Okay. So I forgot what the other, yeah. So we know that, Lori and Chad were getting together pretty frequently. So, and there has been a report that Tammy suspected that Chad was cheating on her. We don't know how reliable that was. We do know right before she died, one of her coworkers said that she was really upset and she was kind of short with her. She wasn't herself. So, I think toward the end, I think Tammy was suspicious that there was something going on. However, I suspect that she wasn't too suspicious on October 9th, because I suspect she would have been much more suspicious of the masked gunman. So yeah, so we don't know. I think a lot of that information will come out in the trial, hopefully. Hopefully she confided. in someone, because we know that she went and stayed with her family just like a week before. It was just days before she died. So, and I actually suspect that the reason for that was chat. I had a whole post about this in Cool Cats. I took a really, really deep dive into into Tammy's insurance, and particularly the plan that was maxed out. And there were a number of really weird things with that. First of all, mhm, signatures didn't need to be notarized. So I kind of pretended I was a school employee, and, just, I mean, I didn't misrepresent myself. I went to the site as if I was a school employee and went through the steps for like how I would increase my life insurance policy, and it didn't need to be notarized. So if you use any kind of PDF app, like Adobe Acrobat, like even the free reader, or if you're on a Mac and you use Mac's Preview, you can sign just like write your signature on a piece of white paper, take a picture with your webcam, and save that to Preview or Acrobat Reader, and use that on any PDF document. And so it would have been very easy for Chad to max out the policy. So I don't believe that Tammy had anything to do with that policy being maxed out. I mean, and I do kind of take umbrage at like some of the hypotheses around Tammy. I think particularly with people who aren't LDS. Now, I'm not LDS, but I still like, now I know a lot of LDS people, and I have a modicum of common sense. So, but I think for some people who aren't LDS, they just kind of jump to this conclusion that, well, because Tammy was LDS, she would have been submissive to Chad, and she wouldn't have questioned these things like, Charles calling her and telling her that, that Chad was cheating on her or increasing the policy, that she would just see this as God's plan, because she saw Chad as God's man. And I just think those are way too many leaps of logic. We do know that Tammy was an intelligent woman, much unlike most of the people involved in this group. So I just, I did, we'll find out. I mean, it wouldn't be the first really strange thing to find out in this case. I, I just don't. I just don't think that. I think if she had been suspicious that Chad was looking for the new Mrs. Daybell, I don't think when approached by a gunman, she would have called out to Chad. I could be wrong. We'll find out. But yeah, we don't know who the holiday gift basket was supposed to be for. Yeah, I'm aware that Zulema claims that she asked Alex to make a holiday basket for her. I was just trying to find the reference. Because then there was also a weird reference that Alex made about something like the something like penetrating his heart, or he got too close. I don't know. It was a really weird comment by him, like on the day that he died. And we also know that he called Chad uh, the day he died. So there are all kinds of weird, very, very weird things. But I think it was like the tip of the sword or something like that. And I have a lot of these in screenshots, but I use Dropbox. And one of the problems I run into, if anyone knows how to resolve this, I'm all ears. But it's, uh, like some of the documents, if you don't access them frequently, then they go to online only, but then they don't show up in Finder. Like I can't search for them, which is a huge pain. But I will just search one more thing to see if I can find it. Um, yeah, I'm just finding all the weird references to Laban. Um, yeah, yeah, I might not find it. I'll search for one other place, but it was just very, very weird. Um, let me see. Yeah. Nope. Okay. Yeah, he made some weird reference to the tip of the sword. All right. I don't think I'm going to find it. I will search one more thing. Mm, yeah, I can't find it. All right. Well, yeah, it was a very weird reference. And it just seemed like he kind of acquiesced to his fate. Mm, yeah, I can't find it. All right, moving on. Uh, Someone asked if I've gotten any backlash from the Cox family. Oh, I have no doubt that that I have, but uh, they're not the kind who would go mano a mano. They would hide behind sock puppets. So there was one sock puppet on YouTube who really came at me swinging, and sometimes it's fun for us moderators to be like, "Oh, who do you think this is?" There are some people who give themselves away because there are unique aspects to their writing, and I don't share those there because I don't want them to change those things. But there but yeah, there was one person who came in who was like, something to the effect of, Lori and Alex were just deceived, unlike your like hoodman or something like that. It was very, very weird. And I was just like, okay, I'm pretty sure this is a Cox family member. But anyway, okay. Hmm. Okay, looking for more questions. I saw someone say, I think Tammy knew about the affairs. I just, I think that really, um, yeah. I know that the intention isn't to diminish Tammy, but yeah, I don't think she was just kind of stand by your man. And I think if she had known the imminent danger she was in, I suspect her family would have told her, get out. Because I think when she went to visit her family, I think there had already been the gunman incident. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, so no, that was right before. So she visited her family on October 4th. That's right. That was at Chad's urging. Oh, and I forgot to finish my point. I suspect that when I went through, let me back up. When I went through the insurance, uh, and took a deep dive in that, I discovered that in these policies, there's a rider that if a person dies by, like, there's a death and dismemberment, sorry, memberment rider on a lot of these policies for like Tammy's school district. And I think that was just part of the policy. And that's pretty common. Like my one of my policies has a death and dismemberment clause because statistically it's pretty rare. So it's nice to throw it in there. But if she had died in a car accident but was wearing a seatbelt, he would have gotten, I think it was 2,000 additional dollars. So he would have gotten, I think the standard death and dismemberment, and now it's been months since I've done this analysis, but I think it was 20,000. But then there was an additional amount if she had been wearing a seatbelt. And people had said that Chad wouldn't let Tammy drive long distances. So it stood out that he urged her to go visit her family in Springville, Utah. And this was 2 days after Brandon was shot at, 5 days before the masked gunman approached her in her driveway. So, yeah. Anyway, but yeah, her father had said that she was healthy, she was doing Zumba, she was clogging, and she had done like some dances for them. I think with her clogging, she was demonstrating some of the routines and stuff. So it just didn't stand to reason at all that she would have died, just 2 weeks later. So yeah. Okay. Tastefully frugal. That's a mouthful. Asked, do we know what happened to Charles' truck after Alex took it from Houston? So, yes, we know that Lori gave the truck to Colby, and then Colby drove the truck for a while. And I think it was in September. Yeah, it was the week that JJ was murdered. I think it was September 18th. I'm going on memory here, but on September 18th, Kay emailed Detective Moffat and said that Brandon had eyes on JJ and they found uh, Charles' truck in Colby's apartment complex parking lot. So, yeah, we don't know how long Colby drove it. There was a report very, very early on in the case, I think it was like January 2020, that the truck had been repossessed. That hasn't been in any of the FOIA docs. Yeah, the Bethy Boop said the whole gift basket thing could have been code for something. I do suspect it was. Tastefully Frugal also asked, was Colby close to Melanie Pulaski as his cousin? Wouldn't he know to contact her if he couldn't get Lori on the phone? So there were videos that were kind of passed around. They were on a public YouTube channel for a while, but then that channel was shut down by YouTube. And like they were both pretty young. I think Colby was a teenager, Melanie was however old, and they were like doing prank calls, and but we don't know how close they were throughout all of this. And Charles grouped in Melanie, Colby, Tylee, and uh, I think a couple others. So there were like the people who were pro Lori, and then the people who were pro Charles. And so Colby and Melanie were grouped together. Oh, Summer. They were grouped together as being like Team Lori, but there there's no there's no reference anywhere to that indicates if they maintained any kind of close relationship throughout this crisis. uh, oh, good point. It wasn't a sword. It was a spear. I just saw that. I just saw someone referenced a spear, and now I can't find it, or I would give you credit. I just saw it as I was scrolling. But let me take a quick uh, gander here to see if I can find reference to spear. Yes. Okay, whoever you were, thank you. I will try to find you because I always try to give credit where I can. Oh, wow. Okay. Dang it, I can't find it. Okay, well, let me share my screen. Oops. Yeah. All right. So this was the day before Alex died. So it says 11:53. So this was just before noon. Alex to Chad, I feel like the poison from the spear in the heart has done some residual damage. And yeah, so that definitely seems like some kind of code. And there were other weird references to like a spear in the heart. Like Lori made a reference to it in reference to, I think, finding out that Kay was the beneficiary. And I will share my screen again. Let me see here. Okay, where was it? Okay, yeah. Okay, on July 18th at 6:55, so this was early in the morning, Lori sent an SMS message to Melanie 2, so really clever disguise there, at the number whatever. In a database available to law enforcement, this number was found to return to Chad and Tamara Daybell. Communication between Lori and Chad using this number started on the whatever account on 7/14/2019, 3 days after Charles' murder. Okay, I won't get distracted by that. But yeah, anyway, this number and contact was also found in the whatever account and entered as a contact on October 28th, 2018. So this was right after Chad and Lori met. They met on the 26th. The following is communication pertinent to this case. Lori, I just got the letter from the insurance company saying I am not the beneficiary. It's a spear through my heart. Who do you think he changed it to? And this, if you have any doubt as to just how low Lori's IQ is and how she is like the quintessential hysterical female. Uh, the fact that she said Brandon, like seriously, that's the first thought that came to her mind. Like, oh my gosh, did Charles sign over the policy to Brandon? Like, why would he sign over a $1 million policy to Brandon? But then, or probably K, he left nothing for JJ. Anyway, so there was that reference to a spear through her heart. And it made me wonder with Alex using that, if he was kind of getting the expression wrong. We do see that quite a bit with the Cox family. Like even like with Adam, he described Tylee as thicker than thieves, with Lori and Alex when it's, thick as thieves. And but anyway, so it's fairly common for the people in the Cox family to get idioms wrong. So, and we do know that, well, we know. The indication from any communication from Alex was that he was very slow, very, very slow. I suspect, yeah, he had a very low IQ, and I don't even say that to be insulting. Like it's, I just think that he was very slow. So I just wonder if he heard Lori say that and just got the expression confused. But it's a very weird reference. Okay. Oh, someone asked, where can I get those readers? Okay. Straight up Zeelool. I think it's Zeelool. Yeah, they're awesome. I get all of my readers. So I got LASIK, I don't know, maybe 7, 8 years ago. And the eye doctor said, well, you might pretty soon you might need readers, but at that point, because it wasn't a strong prescription, I was like, ugh, they're really inexpensive, but they're very fun. Okay. Okay, HRH Pugwidgeon asked, do you think Alex was murdered or killed himself? I personally strongly suspect he was murdered. Yeah, because we know from the Reddit email, the infamous Reddit email, that he was, according to this person who was clearly an insider, because there were things revealed in this Reddit email that it was released very early on, before I think hardly any of these FOIA docs were released. None of these full FOIA docs were released at that point. We were just getting some details from mostly Justin Lum, a little bit from Garna Mieha, and maybe a couple others, but mostly Justin Lum. And so different details were being confirmed, kind of bit by bit. They were trickling down that were confirming information that was in the Reddit email. But anyway, so that doesn't mean that everything in the Reddit email was accurate, but in that Reddit email, it said that Alex was also identified as a zombie. So, clearly with the combination of his lack of an internal editor, and I think it's kind of funny that Lori was irritated by Alex's lack of an internal editor when she has very similar issues in terms of just like an embarrassing lack of impulse control. So anyway, yeah, I forget where I was going with that, but yeah. Uh, but yeah, I just don't think that he committed suicide. Um, I just don't think that he would have chosen to basically, go the way of poison. So that's a pretty brutal way to die. And typically, according to different true crime shows I've seen, poison tends to be the modus operandi of women, much more so than men. So, um, Darla asked if there are any additional interviews that need to be transcribed. Yes, a lot of them. A lot. At some point, yeah, I just needed to, close out the GoFundMe. It had really kind of died off and I was already in the red. Not that I minded, but yeah, these transcriptions are pretty pricey. So, and then with these last couple rounds of FOIA docs, we've gotten a lot of audio and video interviews. So the more significant ones, I've just gone ahead and paid for. But yeah. Um, Kay asked, how many people from this cult's network are known to have been communicating with burner phones? Do you know who they are and when each of them switched over to burners? We don't know. And I seriously doubt that law enforcement has all of the burner phones. No. Yeah, Juliana said, excuse me, it was residual effect from the poison, from the spear to the heart. Yeah, yeah. Um, Stephanie Wood asked, do you think the Cox family could have mended fences with Adam when they realized he was correct about the kids passing? So he did not ever step forward to intervene in any way. Um, to like call in a welfare check or anything like that. So, excuse me. I did an entire live about Adam. So, and in fact that was the first live that I did here on A Murderous Heart. So I won't repeat all of that because used a lot of information from the FOIA docs to kind of not build my case, really just present the facts. So I I I do suspect that there was a lot of friction in the Cox family around the time of Charles' murder. I don't I mm, I I don't know that I believe that he was, um I don't know, disowned by the Cox family, because it just wouldn't make sense that here Barry and Janice moved to St. George, which isn't a very large town, and then Adam would vacation there and then would pack up and move there. So I would think if I were on the outs with someone, I just don't know that I would move to that town. So possibly, but uh just by way of warning, and I see someone who has been very vocal and very disrespectful of the LDS faith, you will be banned from this channel. So choose your words wisely. This channel is not a debate channel for religion at all. Like, this is, within the bumpers of this case, but you step outside those bumpers and get in someone else's lane by saying things like, well, all Mormons believe this, or it's, the Mormon beliefs made it possible for these murders and things like that. You're out. One, it's not unique, it's not well thought out, it's disrespectful. And the thing that has always really gotten me about that, just being so disrespectful toward a religion, and I feel like I can say this because I'm not LDS, but the thing that really, like, affects me personally about that is that the people I see making these kind of ignorant, kind of shoot from the hips, the massive leaps of logic, just not very, for the most part, not very intelligent arguments. Like, they've done so little for this case. Like, they drop their bombs, they lob their bombs over these walls, and in my opinion, in a really cowardly fashion. Meanwhile, so many members of the LDS church have been up with me in the middle of the night, digging through documents, digging through videos, watching videos, digging through the details, or just offering support, being kind, and so I just think, like, whatever your beliefs are, if they make you a kinder, more loving person, I'm not going to begrudge you of those beliefs. But if your beliefs make it possible, make it easy for you to be a troll and to just, like, cast judgment on everyone else, then, you may want to reconsider your beliefs. But I just look at that and I'm like, well, the proof is in the pudding. And so, anyway, I'm going to get off my soapbox now, but yeah, um, yeah, it's just such a pet peeve for me. Okay, um, uh, uh, Derek Parker asked, "Do you think the court will move Lori's trial to January?" They can't. I don't see any way that they can. She has this constitutional right to a speedy trial, which she didn't waive. So of course, I have no legal training. I'm not an attorney. I don't know what they could possibly argue to get around that. But I think even if they did get around that, the thing that gives me pause is any possibility of, of anything being overturned on appeal. Like, I really hope that this is one and done. And especially, with being a death penalty case, they're already more prone to endless appeals. So I, from my very limited myopic perspective, I think that the state's only option that I can see would be to push up Chad's trial. So I guess we'll see. Okay. Mm. Darcy asked, did you see the new court filing that Lori's attorneys just filed? Yes, I did. Basically trying to get around the cases staying joined and throwing out Lori could go incompetent at any time. Oh yeah, I already addressed that. Yes, I did see that. It does seem like almost like a veiled threat, like, whoa, you might want to tread carefully because she's just always right on the edge. So anyway. Yes, Angel. A sock puppet is a fake account, aka coward. Ellen asked, did Alex scope out a favorite site of Tammy's while she was away? We don't know. And there's nothing in the FOIA docs that indicates that. And when I say that, and this isn't a humble brag, it's just for transparency. I did read all of the FOIA docs cover to cover. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to remember everything perfectly. And I created like hundreds of screenshots, but then I have this frustrating issue of not all of them show up in search. So then I try to search in Dropbox, like online, but that's not easy to do. But thank you, Radley. I appreciate it. Um, Stephanie asked, do Lori's parents still support her after finding out the kids were murdered? Um, yeah, again, I don't think that there were really fences to mend. Maybe like a few holes in the fence, but I strongly suspect that Adam misrepresented just how much he was an outcast. And I made the point even in that live that I thought it was interesting that Cole Vallow, when he emailed Detective Moffat, I think for the first time, and I'm going to see if I can find that reference. He made the point that Kay had told them that Adam had reached out to her and was saying that he was like an outcast. It was something like that. But they could see like public posts that, oh, yeah, here it is. I found it. Okay. I will share my screen. Hopefully you're able to see this. Okay, he wrote, hello, Nathan. We have found more information that you may already know, but just in case, I will include it in this email. We knew Alex Cox, Al, has a violent past, but we ran his name to see what information we could find. We found that he has 3 charges of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon in Travis County, Austin, Texas, all found guilty and with felonies. I think they misunderstood how these background checks read. So it looks like there are duplicates. There was another assault charge, but I think it was in Utah, if I remember correctly. Other information we found, which seems odd, is that it is very difficult to find any information or pictures of Al Cox online anywhere. I was able to find pictures of him through Facebook in case people need to know what he looks like. All of their family's pictures that are posted online only include pictures of themselves, and and at all of my dad's houses, but not a single one include Charles. That might not mean anything, but I thought it was weird. Okay, this is the part that's relevant. Adam Cox has been trying to contact Kay Woodcock and tell her that the Cox family has disowned him for a year. Now, he sent this shortly after his dad died. Was murdered. So I think this was still in July, and it might have been just within days. Well, on social media, they're all still in contact frequently. So that was a lie and strange. And then there were a couple other points. I think that it was interesting that he also said Lori called Kay today and Kay recorded it, but for whatever reason, Lori's service was poor. But he said, let me know if you want me to send it. It's about 25 minutes. So anyway, so that's interesting. That was not included in the FOIA docs. So, I mean, there's quite a bit that's not included in the FOIA docs. But anyway, so it's hard to know how much Lori's parents support her. I've heard a couple of different things through several different contacts, that there is a level of deep embarrassment and kind of disavowing Lori, but who knows? I will be surprised if they're at her trial. I'll be very surprised. That'll be awkward. I mean, I won't have any problem. I will be, professional and just stay away. Yeah, Mel asked, wasn't Tammy also training for a marathon? So it was a 5K, not a marathon, but yeah, she was. And the woman who ran she was in Zumba with Emma, but she also took another class, and the instructor of that class talked about how Tammy would smile through burpees. And I tend to be really happy when I work out, so I can somewhat identify with that. But I don't know anyone who smiles through burpees. Like, they're just hell on earth. So, it's hard to know, because sometimes when people are doing tributes like this, sometimes there can be a little bit of hyperbole, but smiling through burpees, that is not something. Definitely, if someone had failing health and her heart was giving out, you wouldn't be able to do burpees, period. So the fact that, I mean, someone is sharing, hey, she was in my class and she was doing burpees, and there were witnesses of this. That's just not something someone with a heart condition would be able to do. So yes, Angel, I agree. The moderators here are absolutely fantastic. Mm. I just happened to see Chrissy's comment. She said, although sick and twisted, I'm glad Chad urged Tammy to visit her family. I do agree. Even though I think his intentions were dubious at best, I am glad that they at least had, that last contact with her. Flashback asked, did you ever determine how much insurance money Lori got upon Charles' death? I mean, Joe's death. That would have been somewhere around 64,000. Yeah. Do you suppose Lori's therapy has involved delving into her family's dysfunction or only into her and Chad's fantasy religion? I have no idea. I have no idea. I do think it's interesting, though, that speaking of the family dysfunction, the fact that when Lori was playing this little guessing game with Alex about like who was dark, and I've shared this in a couple different lives now, that one of Alex's guesses, his first guess was Brandon, but he had already been established as dark. But then one of his other guesses was Pops, who would have been Barry. So, yeah. Yeah, Joyce. I mean, we understand what a holiday basket is. The weird thing is, like, eh, and I don't want to succumb to, to too many generalities, but like asking a broski like Alex to build a holiday basket, like he didn't seem like the creative type. It seemed like he probably still tied his shoes using bunny ears. But yeah, so it's, I think it's more that element that, the Coxmen were, brought up to be like, kind of men's men. And then, here he's tasked with building a holiday basket. I mean, that you like, I'm not even a man, but I'm very left brained and I'm not very creative and, outside of like making data sexy. So if you asked me to build a holiday basket, I'd probably hard pass and offer to buy one. So, yeah. And by probably, I mean, I would definitely hard pass on that. I wouldn't even have the first, I'd have a general idea, but I think I'd be like, I don't know, what do you want? What do you put in a holiday basket? Is it like cheese and crackers? Is it, fruit? What? So I think he would be very, very clueless. Oh, Catlink said, I believe the info on the truck being repoed came from the GoFundMe plea made by Colby's mother-in-law. That is possible. A lot of the information that was in on that page has been taken down, including the video that Colby used for it. That was the one that had like the background music. So yeah, we don't have a lot of information about that page. But that is possible. Okay. Ellen asked if I ever met Melanie. I'm assuming that's Melanie Gibb because it's IE, but I haven't met either Melanie. When the first time I met Lori, mm, was it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the first time I met her, which was in 2003. That's when she was pregnant with Tylee, I think. Yeah, I remember her telling me about Melanie, and I remember her saying that she was like a second mother to Melanie. And I also remember, and this bugs me, I remember telling her that, Tylee was a really unique name and really pretty. And she said that it was a combination of two names. And it was like two people who were really meaningful, like who she had a really meaningful relationship with. And I forget who the first one was, but I'm like 95% confident that the Lee was from no, no, was it? Uh, yeah, it was like, mm, I think Melanie was part of that, but I'm not sure. No. Um, but I do remember her saying there were two people, and for some reason it was just kind of stuck in my mind that she identified as Melanie's mom, because I already knew that her sister had died, and then she kind of like, in my mind, I was thinking Lori was much older than Melanie and kind of took Melanie in. That wasn't the case. Melanie, there was one reference to Lori living with uh, Barry and Janice. This was in the document that I have that isn't publicly available. But Lori was living with her parents at the time that she was pregnant with Colby. And I think that also overlapped with Melanie, her niece, being with her parents. If Janice is here, if she remembers, if I'm wrong about that, she can reality check me. But anyway, so I think there was some kind of overlap where Lori might have assumed, on like kind of a motherly role with Melanie even before all of this happened. But yeah, I don't I don't know. There's a lot I don't know. Um Oh, can be asked, but if Alex was murdered, then wouldn't it had to have been Zulema who administered it? And that is my suspicion. Mm, sorry, didn't realize I was that close to the end of the cam. Yeah, that's my suspicion. And I'm also curious about this bag of money she referenced, because you have to keep in mind, and these different players, they didn't know how comprehensive the investigations would be into these deaths. So I think in some ways they were very chaotic and underprepared. Like, there were so many contradictions between Lori and Alex's testimonies the day that Charles was shot, but then you throw in Tylee's testimony, and there are contradictions all over the place. So in some ways they were underprepared. In other ways, I think they may have over prepared, thinking that there was going to be like, extensive investigation. So I wonder if Zulema mentioned that because she didn't know how much they would search her home and how strong of a suspect she would be, if she would be a suspect at all. But yeah, they were over prepared. So, but I do think the fact that she references like a bag of cash, um, yeah, that's sketch. So, um, Janice. I should have known this was a Janice comment. I'm like, why am I even reading this? You need to get a pair of dollar store readers like Lori's. They were ridiculous. I can't believe she agreed to wear them. I think she was just trying to like break up the monotony of her Botoxless face. Uh, Okay, Noelle Faint asked, do you think the Daybell kids will be subpoenaed by the prosecution? And then Summer and Mama Cox. Yes, on the Daybell kids, at least some of them, like Emma and Garth. And yes, on Summer, um, Janice. I don't know. I don't know. I think it depends on how much information they have that we don't know about. Uh, and there wasn't much in the FOIA docs. So, but Summer, yeah. And they even listed Summer as being a part of this group and left Melanie Gibb out, which is just absolutely laughable. I'm like, could you guys protect Melanie Gibb anymore? Like, it's insane. So, anyway. Okay. Yes. So Ellen XP asked if Zulema and or Melanie have limited immunity, can it be voided if they lie under oath? Yes. Yes, it can. It's contingent upon being honest. And there's no record of Melanie Gibb or Melanie Pulaski having limited use immunity. So, and I think, and again, this is where lack of training, I try to be, transparent about that. That's why I think it's so funny when trolls are like, she doesn't have any training. It's like, well, no kidding. I mean, I disclose that over and over, but a lot of this is just straight up common sense and and just taking the time to read all of these documents and the dashboard. So yeah, I don't have training, but I do have the ability to search across multiple documents and interviews and shows and things, and I'm able to create videos and and stitch together presentations. So I don't say that as a humble brag. I'm just saying a lot of this is just common sense. And then, the unusual ability to be able to unredact or at least, proffer possible fill-ins for these redactions. I always try to say, like, unless it's been confirmed through, elsewhere in the FOIA docs, they're just like educated guesses. The affidavit of probable cause, I think it was, or yeah, that came out of Chandler. No, that entire document I found in the police report. So I did an entire video about that, and that is word for word. Unless I missed something, but I don't think I did. And I went in and grabbed the redactions and actually shoehorned them, like grabbed the text and shoehorned them into the redactions just for the sake of transparency. And also, it's interesting to see what law enforcement redacts. So, anyway. Okay, Speed Bump asked the question, how do we read the email? But I'm not sure what email you're referencing. If it's the Reddit email, that is actually something that it was driving me crazy that I couldn't, like, it's such a disaster, because it, like, the formatting is all messed up, um, and it's just a giant screenshot. So I actually um, uh, ran OCR on that to turn it into um, text. So I didn't read over it really closely to make sure that it could be like that everything was totally accurate. So if you find something that's off, please let me know. But I'm going to drop a link to that because it is searchable, which is nice. So if that's what you were referring to, speed bump, that's how you can read the email. Michigan 12 said Zulema is lucky to be alive. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I think she was, yeah. By the time she narked, the family hitman was already gone. And I personally, for whatever that's worth, I do not believe her story about, um, you know, Alex trying to have sexy time on a tarp or whatever it was. Like, I think that was just a pathetic attempt to make her sound like a possible victim who narrowly escaped to death herself. And that was a pretty common theme among these group members, them like trying to make the point of like how lucky they were that they weren't killed. And to some degree, sure, okay, I'll allow it. You ran with seedy characters. But with Zulema, like, dude, you married one. And this was after I absolutely believe that she knew the kids were murdered, Tammy was murdered, and she was the one who in many ways got this ball rolling because she kept getting just kind of marginalized, and Lori and Chad were both like ghosting her on texts. Like, she would send these texts and they wouldn't reply, and then she would just kind of ingratiate herself to them. And it's difficult to read some of these text messages because she's intensely insecure and absolutely desperate for their approval. But then she sent this text message to Lori uh, that, in my opinion, got everything going, because she shared this, quote, prophecy, and she kept thinking that she also had this like prophetic gifting, like Chad, and she was completely clueless just how unwelcome this was. Like they were like, basically, stay in your lane, Zulema. Like, that's Chad's job and Lori's job. Like, her job is to just be there for them, to be the help, to be anything that they needed at that time. But okay, so this was a text exchange that Zulema had with Chad. And she said, "Were the 18 out yesterday by any chance?" I think this was in reference to zombies. "I had a very strange travel yesterday. It was confusing, not like others. Serena felt an attack as well." So I'm not sure if this was a typo or what, but Zulema said, "I spoke to Lori this morning and my heart is aching. I cannot understand how Serena could be indoctrinated in such a way. How do I make sense of this?" Uh, wait, no. Let me see. No, there was another reference. Uh, yeah, because she also talked about, let's see. No, this is more her and Chad. And she said to Lori, all right, just a second. I'm going to search for one more thing. Aha. Okay. I think this is it. Yes. Okay. Share my screen. Okay. So Lori said to Zulema, "Hey, pretty girl, we are hanging in there. Just finished clearing the world today." It's a big deal. You were there every day, part with me, whatever that means. We are learning and growing in our powers every day. Excuse me. How are you? Zulema, I'm good. This is May 2nd. I'm starting to travel to the terrestrial realm at the temple now, although today I had a very different experience and I had the feeling that something may happen to one of your family members. Look at Lori's response. Call me, two exclamation marks. And then we know that when Charles died, right, let me stop sharing my screen. Um, that she had also said that she would like basically escort uh, JJ to heaven. Um, let's see. What was it? Let me see if I can find it under JJ. But it was the next. Well, wait a minute. I think it would be under Zulema. Find me. The problem is I have so many screenshots. Let's see. Yes. Okay. I found it. Share my screen. All right. Yes. Okay. Now in this one, I had combined them. I need to use this one more. Okay. So this was the section we already read, and this was May 2nd, which actually I think is that I think that might have been the same day. Um This was right around the same time. Yeah. So it was just a few days later that Lori saved the screenshot of the Malachite stone. So, so Zulema predicts that something may happen to one of her family members. Lori's all about this. And then 3 days later, Lori's saving a screenshot of a Malachite stone. So I just made that connection. All right. So fast forward to May 29th. Zulema tells Lori, I will go in spirit when the bomb goes off. And I'll be there to see JJ's spirit go to the presence of the Lord. Then I and the angels will protect the bodies and not allow for them to be possessed by evil. Lori, perfect. I found out there are four. One is a level. I think this was supposed to be level 4 entity. His name is Hiplos. The H is silent. The other three are level 3s. Let's do this. Then Zulema says, I encapsulated them. So she's not just talking about one family member. She's stepping up to the plate for the entire family to be wiped out, except for Colby, because he was a light spirit. But also when in the initial rounds of ratings, so were Charles and JJ was a 4.2L, and according to Chad's beliefs, anyone who was rated above a 4 rarely switched sides because they made covenants with that side. So Tylee wouldn't have switched to being a light spirit because she made a covenant with the dark side. So, Satan, Joe made a covenant. But JJ, according to his teaching, he would have made a covenant with the Lord. So, but he said rarely, to just kind of allow for, in the event that this happened. And I'm sure there's some explanation of a slug, or we even know that Chad had told Lori, when Colby and Lori were in Charles' home taking what they wanted, that he had like cast these dark spirits out of sweet Bailey, and that Bailey was going to attack her. It's just so weird. But anyway, so I encapsulated them with invisible hidden capsules that will close and capture them as soon as the bomb goes off. So another reference to the bomb going off, and they leave the body. I also created a safe path guarded by warrior angels for Jonas to come and bind them and take them away as soon as they exit the body. I have a good feeling of this. I saw myself protecting the bodies. Lori, I could not love you more right now. You are an amazing goddess. Multiple exclamation marks. So Zulema accomplished her purpose I believe her purpose in all of this was to edge her way into sitting at Lori's right hand. She really wanted to be an integral player. She saw that, she wasn't outscoring Melanie Gibb, and Melanie, then Boudreaux, was Lori's um, niece, and Lori was basically assuming the role of her mother, because she went so far as to tell law enforcement, when they were doing their joke of an investigation into Charles' death, she referenced grandbabies. So not a grandchild. She only had one grandchild at that point. She referenced multiple grandchildren. And she also referenced going to a birthday party for her grandbaby when she was in town, and it was her second birthday, and that would have been the youngest. That, according to my calculations, I think that's when the youngest Boudreaux girl was turning two, just like judging by the pictures and stuff. So, okay. Then the next day, so there must have been something kind of like off topic. The next day, Lori says to Zulema, I would love it, but I'm out of town. So remember, the May 28th was when she went to Salt Lake City. I'm not going to the conference, which was in Salt Lake City. That's the conference Chad was supposed to be speaking at. But thought it was important to my friendship with Melanie to go to Utah with her. I'm sure that's exactly why she was there. I'm hoping to have a reason soon to have to go back to Texas, working on that now. I'm told he can't stay there more than 5 days. So it has been 2. I'm told our time bomb is in effect and it's only a matter of time and circumstance. So they were thinking that this time bomb was going to go off in early June, like end of May, early June. And then when this bomb went off, multiple family members would be escorted by Zulema and Jonas, or Jonah. Was it Jonah or Jonas? Um, they would be escorted to heaven. It doesn't look like Tylee was included in that in terms of the escort. Okay. I've also found out some other great info, and your revelation yesterday about hidden entities and deeply hidden entities was the key. Multiple exclamation marks. Again, you were amazing, Zulema. I just love you so much. So love bombing. I could not do all of this without you. Finally, something Lori and I agree on. let's talk on the phone tonight if you can, probably after 8. So yeah, so that was the role Zulema played. Well, one of the roles. Okay. I I think your name is pronounced Terry Dalton. I think I saw a comment by you that your mom just spelled it Tere. I'm not exactly sure, but do you think that Alex would commit suicide if Lori asked him to? No, no, because uh, I, 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 th- I suspect that suicide was very much against the teachings that their family had. Like I yeah, I just don't think that he would have, possibly, but I don't think she had that much influence on him. I think, uh, yeah. Mm, one of the many reasons I don't think that he didn't, that I don't think that he committed suicide was, one, I think him taking Zulema's last name of Pastenis was strategic. I know people have said that he did that to hide from law enforcement. I don't believe that. I mean, even just with consumer grade skip tracing software, like any name you've used, it shows up in the skip trace. So, and law enforcement obviously has access to, more sophisticated skip tracing information than we have access to. But like, his social security number wouldn't have changed. Yeah, and that's the scarlet thread that ties everything together if you're a US citizen. So I don't think that's the reason he took her last name. I suspect he took her last name because he was very enthusiastic about the sex industry, sex tourism in South America. There are multiple references to that. I think Cole made a reference, maybe Zach Cox. In the document that I have, there's a reference to it. Even Janice said, even if, like she said to Alex in a text, even if Charles had been with hookers, like we basically, like, we're in no position to judge, something to that effect. But yeah, so, and then Adam talked, like, he had inside information that Alex had gone to South America after killing Charles, and it was for this sex tourism. So I wonder if having a Hispanic last name would help him, to those ends. I don't know. It was a very weird flex. The Cox family would not be keen on that. But yeah, so, but I think even if they had been able to convince him to commit suicide, I don't think he would have chosen a method that would cause him to basically defecate all over himself. So yeah, but I do wonder. I would go a little stronger than wonder. I suspect that when he called Chad and Lori may have convinced him that if he called 911, they would bring him in, which would have been fair if they told him that. But I think it's very interesting that Alex would call Chad on the day that he died. So yeah, but he seemed very easy to manipulate. Like, uh there were, I think Zulema talked about how he cried like a baby over Chad's, um like, patriarchal blessing, but he actually had it in the truck with him. So and like he printed it out and had it in the truck. So it does seem like it was meaningful to him. And you also see hints of, you know, potentially how easily influenced Alex was in that weird song that Lori wrote, the Hallelujah, uh, her like kind of cover, but she like completely rewrote the words, and we have the um, the words in the Cool Cats group if you're part of the group. But yeah, so like she references to, like this kind of key turning with Alex, that uh that like something to the effect of like him being willing to do what God had called him to do. I'll look and see if I can find the reference in the group. But yeah, so I think there are a number of things that to me now, we're going to find out so much more when the trial or these trials come around. So, all of this could be turned on its head. Um, but yeah, yeah, I personally, I suspect that he was murdered. I'm looking to see if I can find. For a while, we were really good about tagging posts, and then it dropped off. So I'm going to search for one more thing. Um, oh, yeah. Okay. I found it. Um, I will obfuscate the person's name because this is a private group. Let me make sure that nothing is showing. Um, okay. All right. So these were the words, the lyrics. I heard there was a podcast. Alex, I'm not going to try to like keep the syncopated beat. I heard there was a new podcast. Alex played it pleased the Lord. He had no idea how much it would change him. It started out with Julie Rowe, good job, J. Rowe, and it turned on the light, and he was changed forever in an instant. Now, Zach Cox also made reference to the fact that Alex was like listening to all of these podcasts. He started small to build the light. Darkness went away at night. The Lord began to fill him. Hallelujah. He read a book on paradise. So that would have been Chad's, I'm sure. He cried out all his tears at night and fell upon his knees now. Hallelujah. He knows there is a God above. He surely taught him how to love, and that confirms his end times every day now. The darkness now has left his heart, and he knows how to play his part. And Jesus lies, I think this was supposed to be smiles. Yeah, I heard smiles. And Jesus smiles down on him forever. So, and this was, sorry. This was, I think, released in like 2018, maybe. Um, yeah. Uh, there is a way to get the date, I think, if you search for it. So I think someone in the group actually found it, but I think there are probably now too many results for me to quickly find this. I'll just search for a little bit, but um, yeah, this was definitely before any of the murders around this case, but I think it was actually 2018. I think it was before, possibly before Joe died, but I really don't want to misspeak. So if someone wants to search and grab the date, I'll just drop a link to the the search filter, and it's really just a matter of, like, this is called infinite scroll, where you can just scroll ad nauseum. Um, oh, let me see. Was hers? Yeah, Lori Style. Hmm. Let me see. Alex. Uh, yeah. Anyway, um, you probably have to search for a little bit, or someone from Cool Cats might remember the date on that, because I think someone actually broke down the dates. I'm going to look for one more thing. Let me just see here. Yeah, I'm going to search for Smule. But yeah, it was very, very early on. Um, but the only way that you can get the dates is I I think uh yeah, Kim Schmidt came up with it. Okay. Aha. Yeah, so Lori recorded Hallelujah on November 5th, 2017. And Colby had said when he was interviewed by Gilbert Police that Alex started hanging around again he noticed that Alex had started hanging around again in January 2019. So it looks to me like in November, Lori um, started working on Alex, and then sings this song that he knows how to play his part, and Jesus smiles down on him forever. So um and I am going to, let me see, I'm going to create a link to this. Um, I'm just going to quickly create this link. This will be a screencast link because I think it's a really important point that, November 2017, that was obviously that was before Joe even died. So, okay, I dropped it in the chat. All right. Oops. All right. I'll take a few more questions and then we'll call it a night. HRH asked, do you think David is turning state's witness? No, I don't. I don't see any evidence of that. I mean, he would have to have some kind of motivation to turn state's witness. Like, they would have to have more on him. And like I said, I just don't see any indicator that they're looking to go after some of these secondary players. So, Uh, Jennifer Dameron asked, besides electronics, what evidence was seized in the first raid on Chad's property in January? Let me reference my timeline. Let's see. That was, what is that? It's my daughter's dog, Finnegan. He's a Yorkie, but he thinks he's a Great Dane. Okay. Found the source. This was on January 3rd. Okay, so I will share my screen. Okay, the Fremont County Sheriff's Office says law enforcement removed 43 items from Chad Daybell's Salem home during a multi-agency raid on Friday. Humphreys said the items included computers, cell phones, journals, documents, and medications, which have been sent to forensic experts for examination. So there you have it. Okay. Tina asked, did Lori get the money from JJ's school since he only went for a few weeks? That was a public school. I think it was Kennedy Elementary, if memory serves me. So Connie asked, did Chad get to keep Tammy? I don't know what that means. T.S. Jackson asked, does it ever make you bitter at the police at their many screw-ups, such as not investigating Joe's death, even after Charles was killed, or helping Charles when he begged, etc., or the complete lack of an investigation into his death? And yeah, or the fact that they wanted to know the whereabouts of the Jeep and Tylee Ryan until they found the Jeep, and then no one followed up about, well, what about Tylee Ryan? So that would have been October. So anyway, so yeah, I do struggle with it. Bitterness is, it's a pretty heavy lift, and there's really kind of nowhere for that rage to go. So, I personally, with my beliefs, I do believe in the power of forgiveness. I don't think it's for the other person's sake, it's for ours. So, for me, it doesn't mean that I condone anything anyone has done. I've been pretty transparent about, like, 2020 was the year of rage for me. I mean, I largely kind of kept it together. It would bubble up from time to time in some of these private Facebook groups, but I would just, like, wake up in the middle of the night, just mid rage. So I think my brain was trying to process this. And as I've talked about before, one thing that made this case unique is that, it wasn't like we just found out the horrible things that happened to these victims. Like, I found out what happened to Tylee, and then it was a matter of just processing that. It's been death by a thousand cuts. So all throughout 2020, it was just like, a leak here, a leak there. And I'm not saying leak in a negative sense. I'm just saying it's like, is like, the details just kind of dripped out, in a very protracted fashion. So by 2021 and even through 2020, I was really, just trying to, you know, get, like, I didn't want to become just a bitter, angry person, because that's a lot to contain. And I grew up in New Jersey, so it was there were, and I grew up kind of feral in foster care, so there were already some proclivities that I have to kind of keep in check. And so yes, but I really try to stay on top of it, and I can tell that I have just, I've gotten better at it, just because I feel lighter. Like I feel like, my worldview has become more positive again. So, the pendulum never swings to the middle, and but yeah, so it's a lighter load to not have to carry all of that. That said, I will continue, excuse me, I will continue to share the facts from the FOIA docs. And sometimes these facts, these details, they make people look bad. They make the police look inept. They make, some people look somewhat, I don't know, complicit, either through, acts of omission or commission. But in the end, what I really try to do is just share the facts as dispassionately as possible. So if I'm still feeling really strong emotion, I will, especially in these lives, which are public, I just won't address them. I won't address those topics. So Lou asked, what's a burpee? It is a method of torture. And what you do is, excuse me, most of the ones I've done is like you do this jumping jack, and then you drop down and do a push up. And then you push yourself back up and rinse and repeat. And yeah, they're a lot of fun. Okay. Okay. Jennifer Dameron asked, have you read Colby's book, and what are your thoughts? I haven't, but I really, I am like super focused on the FOIA docs and the details directly pertinent to the case. So that's not like a vote of no confidence in his book. I know that the primary objective of his book is to, kind of preach the gospel and stuff. I really just try to stay as focused as possible on the case. So I haven't read any of the books. I know that there's another book out there. Again, it's not at all a vote of no confidence. I just tend to be like really super focused on the facts around the case. Um, oh, I think someone was trying to get clarification around something else. Yeah, Denny said Lori's religion was more about the money. Absolutely. And making it possible to, whoops, I forgot I was still sharing my screen. I'm sorry. And making it possible to just destroy anyone who got in her way. Oh, and people have commented when I've shared my screen, they've commented like, "Oh, we can see your text." You're not seeing my text. I've closed out of my messages app. You're just seeing the comments from the live. Marshall asked, Marshall Dove, how close is the petition for Joe to be filled? What do you hope law enforcement will do and or is needed once they open up his case? What do you think would be the needed steps to show Lori was? Okay, I don't understand the last one, but um, really the point of the petition is just to send a message to Phoenix police that Joe's death does need to be investigated. My hope, I mean, do I actually think they're going to investigate his death? Not anytime soon. I think if it's ever investigated, it will be after whoever's in power now, who ultimately has been able to make this decision. I think they would have to be out of power, and it'll take like basically a millennial coming in who has fire in his or her belly and is just like, you know what, this was wrong. So I don't have confidence that it will happen anytime soon, but I do think the petition being out there, it just makes it just a little bit harder for them. It makes it like more annoying. I mean, if I had my druthers, they would do an investigation before all of the electronic paper trail, the pixel trail, so to speak, is destroyed, because different different cell providers have varying amounts of time that they keep electronic records. And I don't know who Joe's carrier was. So some of them keep the records for years, some just a matter of months. So, yeah. So, and for people who have said they investigated it but found that his death, what do they call it? What I forget the term, but the manner of death was natural. They did not open an investigation. They claimed to open a review of the case, and then the other thing that makes me feel like that they just weren't very transparent. And again, it could be a coincidence. I don't think it was. I think that this is a classic PR move. But they announced that they had closed their review on, I think it was the it was like the day after, I think, that the big announcement that there was something big. It was either the riot on the Capitol, or right after Joe Biden was announced as president. There was it was a really, really big news day. And then it was like, oh, by the way, yeah, we closed our review. So having been in the journalism space, I know that that's a ploy to bury a story, and it was very effective. So yeah. Okay, I'll do one more question. And Dave, what, there's another way to tie shoes? I had one friend once who said that like there was some kind of rhyme and they still like recited that rhyme. It was like a rhyme that they learned when they were tying their shoes. Angelina asked, do you follow other true crime stories? No, I was a really avid follower of true crime until this case. And it's not like it was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. It just like I have tried, but because I used to watch it all the time, but I don't know. It just doesn't hold the interest to me. So the most I could do, and I forget, Bailey Sarian, true, is like murder and makeup or something like that. Like, I listened to some of her videos, but then again, it was kind of weird how, like, when once she covered this story, I couldn't listen to her anymore either. So I thought that was like kind of, like summarized enough that, yeah. So I don't know. It could just be that, like, like, I have so many other things to focus on, and then, in my tiny little bit of spare time, I'm just like always digging through this case. Um, so who knows, that might change. I do think in a lot of ways it served me. Like, and because there are things that I think that I think about that just wouldn't have known. And even when, um, when the news broke that the kids were missing, sadly, I never believed that they were alive, and it was because of something that I watched in a true crime episode, and it was a statistic, so it stuck in my mind because I tend to gravitate toward numbers. But it was a case where a child had gone missing and wasn't reported missing, and someone had shared that it was less. I remember it was a single digit percent. Like, the of the cases where a child had gone missing and wasn't reported missing, it was less than 10% of the time the child was found alive. But I think it was much less. So basically, just very rare, and that's intuitive, So, like, typically, if you're not going to report a child missing, there's a reason for that. So, but yeah, so I think there have been things that I've thought about that I might not have, had I not followed true crime. But yeah, but I suspect that I'll be done by the time I get on the other side of this trial. But then also, as a family member, I fully intend to order, the files, and will then be digging through them. So I'm probably going to be sticking with this for quite a while. Um, okay. I think it's mostly comments. I'll see if there's one more question, and then I'm going to bounce. Um, Thank you, Benita. That's very sweet. I mostly scroll and just look for the word question, but every once in a while I catch a comment. Okay, so Kay asked, will you do a Melanie Gibb timeline like you did for Colby last week? Well, I don't know. One, I'm a little frustrated that I have not heard back from them about turning off comments. So I'm going to follow up again because I am I have paid for this tool. So I'm not saying that entitles me to having the comments turned off, but there's no way to even moderate the comments. So it's very frustrating to me to put all of that work into a timeline, and then at this point, I can't share it because I'm just not going to put it out there and just feed the trolls. Um, and I've made this point before, but even just when a post mentions Colby, in Cool Cats, we are inundated with sock puppets. Not as much anymore because now we've been aggressively booting sock puppet accounts. So, but still, and there's another family member. There are two family members that when they're mentioned, we get new sock puppets, new sock puppets boil to the surface. So, or bubble to the surface, I guess. So yeah, so I'm not saying that. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. But so yeah, so if I don't have the ability to turn off comments, and then I'm going to start looking for another tool. But even having said that, yeah, I don't know that there's enough. Like with Colby, there were just so many moving parts, and then there were things that they correlated, like the Venmo transactions. I think in total there were more than 50. So they correlated with key events. Whether or not that correlation does not mean causation, so that doesn't mean that they were caused, or they precipitated from these events, but it was eerie how they coordinated with a lot of these key events, like the murder of each of the kids. And so anyway, so with Melanie Gibb, I'm not sure that there were that many key dates. It's much more her involvement. So I will do another live about Melanie Gibb for sure. But I already did one back in 2020. Was it 2020 or maybe 2021? But yeah, but I don't. And that's the timeline. That was a lot of work. So, but I did that. I mean, one of the reasons I did that, obviously there were a lot of moving parts, but then also I very much wanted to stay away from any kind of conjecture, because I have seen a tendency that when people don't agree with something, they just say like, "Oh, that's speculative." Like even people who said they didn't listen to it, they said, "Well, any live about Colby is going to be speculative." And I just want to be like, just because you don't like it or you don't agree with it doesn't mean it's speculative. Like that word actually means something. It means that you are stating something that you suspect, but you're stating it as a fact. That's speculative. Like if I said, you know, um, uh, you know, Lori's trial is going to end in mistrial because of whatever. Like, and I state it as a fact, like that would be speculative. I mean, there are lots of things that would be speculative. And there are times that I will speculate. I will say, okay, we're moving into the conjecture lane, or I'm going to conjecture here, or this is speculative, or I'll just say, I suspect, or I strongly suspect something. But in Colby's uh, that live, because it's such a delicate topic, I wanted to be like a dry professor and just read fact, 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 fact. Here's a screenshot. Here's a screenshot. Here's a video. And um, and even in the event that they can't turn off comments, like I didn't play all of the videos because the live was going very late. So I do really hope that at some point I will be able to share that timeline. But yeah, I just wanted it to be like fact, 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 fact. Okay, good night. So anyway, And EM said, I hope Annie does a live about Zulema. Absolutely. I will absolutely do a live about Zulema. Okay. On that note, thank you for coming with really good questions. And as I said in the beginning of the live, I'm going to be taking off a few weeks. And then we will get back to it in June. So have a great night.